Did you see in
But they
Phoenix
don't.
that they have like a walkable city neighborhood or neighborhoods
Yeah.
that they're building?
Yes.
It's an
Yes, I did.
interesting concept, but like you can't move to like you can't own a car if you live there. But you can't live in Phoenix if you don't have a car. Everything
Right.
is an hour away.
It's not realistic. And yeah, I mean, I think in those types of situations, it's like they're almost trying to recreate like a college environment. But the
Right.
problem is that the only reason the college environment works is because you're all working at the same place.
Right.
Like, that's not real life. So yeah, like I don't, unless you worked in the same fucking mini community, then I don't understand how it's realistically
But
going to
it's
work,
just like
especially here of all
Sephora's
places.
and
Especially
Qdoba.
when it's a concept of a walkable community. This is what also really pisses me off. The concept of a walkable community here, when dead ass 8 months out of the year, it's triple digits.
Right.
Who is walking anywhere? Who is
You will
walking
die. It
farther
needs to
than
be
your mailbox?
inside.
Like, no one is walking anywhere. Like, you're not walking to the grocery store here. Like, you're not doing any of that.
Well, it's officially the off season because we are talking about walkable cities. Welcome.
Going up.
Hi, hello, howdy, happy off season to all of our she's, days, and gays in the Flagrant Femmes universe. That is right, we have officially reached the WNBA off season. The drama is already flying off the shelves. The coaching carousel is heating up. We're gonna have our finals recap soon, obviously, but as always, I have my favorite flagrant human alongside me. Maddie, we finally made it. Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you not entertained? Like, how are you feeling as we move into our first off season as a pod?
Well, I can't be too sad for one reason. The first reason is because my goat, Kevin Durant, just brought the Phoenix Suns to their first victory of the season. But also because ultimately I got what I wanted, which was an absolutely epic all-time finals series and 5 games of it. And 2 of them went to overtime. So we got extra basketball. We had buzzer beaters. 4 of the 5 games were decided by a combined 12 points. So they were all close except for the one game. We had game winners, controversy, drama. It was everything I could hope for under the circumstances, considering it was 2 teams that I was, as everyone knows, not rooting for to be in this situation in the first place. It was great. And I got to watch the Liberty blow a 15-point fourth quarter lead on my birthday, and Courtney Williams absolutely took over, which was kind of like my own personal WNBA championship. So yeah, I'm hanging a banner for that.
From my own perspective, it was incredibly relaxing. It was incredibly relaxing to watch WNBA finals and not be a complete mess. Not have my resting heart rate be like in the 180s and then like 200 and dangerous when the game is actually happening. It was actually nice. I mean, I'd like to go back to a championship, but we got to, so I can live with that for now. Meanwhile, as you could hear, Maddie was texting me like photos of herself reacting to things. It was like she was even like preparing to react to things and just sent the photo or video anyways. And she literally never texted me, so you knew Maddie was really into those games and genuinely watching in a complete panic. I mean, we kind of touched on it, but I need you to just like recap some of your feelings because I know you were feeling big feelings about the series. So just tell the people what you were feeling.
I had a lot of feelings, and per usual, I had my trusty notebook to
course.
jot them down during the entire thing. In game 1, the very first quarter of the series did not start off good for the Lynx. The Liberty just looked too big for the Lynx. Jonquil Jones was cooking everybody, and I was like, oh no, they might be in trouble. Nope, they couldn't rebound to save their lives. So I was stressing. And then, the Lynx clawed their way back into it. They had this epic comeback, as I've already mentioned. Courtney Williams was Courtney Williams, 1 in 183. So we'll never forget about that. Then game 2 was game 2. Liberty came back, kind of, took care of business as I expected them to do. You got to get the split at home. I mean, they had to win that game. Like, that was a must win. So, that was that. Game 3, epic Sabrina game winner. I mean, I am card carrying Sabrina Ionescu hater. Everyone knows that. She's an Oregon Duck. Fuck the Ducks. It was one of the greatest shots I've ever seen. That was sick. And I was weirdly happy for her. Then we had game 4, Bridget Carlton, my girl from Iowa, best shooter from Iowa. Absolutely sealed that game. Baller. I don't give a fuck what anyone wants to say about the refs in that game. And then game 5, I mean, anytime there's a winner take all game on the line, I am sat. I am seated. I don't care what sport it is. I have literally watched cornhole tournaments on ESPN before. I like, if it's a winner take all situation, like, I will be there. And when it comes to women's basketball, I mean, that's just peak top of the line. So you better believe I was anxious. I was sick. I was like, I mean, the adrenaline was pumping, and it delivered. I mean, all the way to overtime. So the Liberty won.
They did. Indeed. They did. You have to be a real sicko, honestly, to be watching like cornhole, like walk-off cornhole games. Like, you are a true sports sicko. So
4 baggers, they go crazy sometimes. You never know.
you're even using technical terms. I know you're not capping about this either. That is just so Maddie. So Maddie. Anywho, as we transition into the off season, well, we had a lot of drama clearly in the W finals, but I thought the drama was going to come a little bit later in terms of the off season drama. But we have been fed this week very thoroughly. I'm very full on drama. I don't think I need any more this week. The coaching moves are starting to take off. We might as well just dive right into that, as a matter of fact, because we had a big and potentially unexpected move in Washington announced on Wednesday morning. Most of us West Coast girlies woke up to the news that both Eric and Mike Tebow had agreed to mutually part ways with the Mystics. They both joined the team as the assistant and head coach respectively back in 2013, so it was like a 10, 11-year run. The Mystics won their lone title under Mike's tenure as head coach back in 2019. They only missed the playoffs 3 times in that 11-season run, which is pretty impressive given it's DC. So the Mystics, they were pretty hurt. They had really actually terrible injury luck this year. They still had a late renaissance that left them just short of making the playoffs. I mean, they missed it by a game on the final day. So does this move come as a shock to you, or do you feel like this might have been a long time coming?
I mean, out of all the firings so far, I think this one surprised me the most. I'm surprised by the decision. I mean, I know people have been like, I know people like online and fans have been clamoring for this for some time, but I'm not always sure how much the fan perspective is aligning with what front offices are thinking. And obviously, evidently, that they wanted to go in a different direction. I get that they have like new management that that they have, and they're using the Wizards GM or whatever, who's been doing his thing and actually maybe doing something over there allegedly. So whatever, I guess. I don't know. But also at the same time, it's like them or hate them, they have pretty much built that organization, brought them the championship in 2019. So I don't know. It's just a weird time right now because I feel like there's also not a ton of candidates out. I mean, the candidates that have already been fired from other jobs, but then it's like, I don't know. I don't know. There's just a lot to unpack there.
I think you can call me one of those fans because I kind of agree with them. I think it may have been time to move on. I A toxic trait of the DMV teams is that it takes entirely too long to commit to a rebuild and like actually sustain success. I feel like the Mystics got pretty incredible mileage out of the roster that they had, which is great. But you know, as the league continues to get younger and the pressure to do so grows, like it kind of felt like a good time to hit the reset button. And I know Monumental, they own the Caps, they own the Wizards. Like I know how those owners operate, and it takes them a while to get their shit together. So I'm shocked it came this fast, but I maybe think it was a good call. The Caps kind of did the same thing, and they're starting to cook. The Caps are starting to cook, so I don't know. Maybe the Mystics will follow suit. Like you said, I think it's going to be kind of interesting with the coaching vacancies right now, but I mean, I kind of think you set yourself up for long-term success when you start with just a whole brand new front office. Like you just have a new plan, a new opportunity, a new thing to chase. So I don't know. I'd be super interested to see where they stand amongst like the candidates that are out there right now. I don't think they really have a lot of like major draft capital. They don't really have a guaranteed roster, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens with the Mystics, as we said anyway before the firing happened, or the mutual departure happened. That it was going to be interesting to watch the Mystics. So another move that happened while we were between episodes was the Dallas Wings firing Trish Trammell of her duties as head coach. It had only been 2 seasons. They were another victim of the overwhelming injuries. They made a semifinals appearance in her first season. They lost to Vegas in 3 games. Maddie, I think next to Teaspoon's firing, this one feels a little bit odd to me. The Mystics, I think I could see the need to move on, but this one just 2 seasons in and coming off major injuries. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about this one either. Last season just felt like so disjointed for the Wings. Like, especially with Satu being out, I feel like it really became evident how much they were relying and had been hinged, like in terms of especially their like offense. Arike already has a tendency to like have a lot on her shoulders, but last season with Satu and the other injuries that they had, like it was at times really just Arike hero ball night in and night out. And I don't know exactly what LT was supposed to do else. Like Maddie Segrist missed all that time with a broken finger. I mean, there's just like a lot of factors there. So I didn't I'm just and that's what's confusing to me. I guess that's like my thing in general is what's confusing to me is okay, so all these teams are going to fire their coaches. It's not like the WNBA has this extremely deep coaching pool. Like the majority of our coaches are coming from already the existing pool. It's recycled coaches that we're just passing around from team to team. And like that's fine. I think a lot of these are like good coaches. So it's not about that, but at the same time it's like if you're going from one rebuild situation to another rebuild situation, what's really the difference going to be? That would be my concern if I was thinking about it from these teams' perspective is all, I guess. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. It feels like this is one you might have wanted to just give a little more time, given the fact that you had a decent amount of success in year one, and in year two you just never really had a chance. And you even kind of got hot towards, when everybody came back after the Olympic break, and got a little bit hot, but you were already on the brink of elimination anyway. So I guess what I read was that their team president Greg Bidd said that they wanted to expand their basketball operations department. Their goal is to lock down a GM before they move into a coaching search, which will be led by said GM. So I feel like they may wind up missing out on some of these key names in the carousel, even if they are a little bit recycled. They might miss out, but he did say that the search is already underway, so hopefully they are closer to announcing said GM instead of actually searching for said GM, because that would be bad. You would be behind the ball. You have an expansion draft happening very soon, so probably need to think about getting someone in place. That move was spurred by their COO, Amber Cox, leaving the team last year for the GM position with the Fever. So good on Indiana for kicking Dallas in the ass and saying, getting here, expand your front office. That's the good thing to come out of it, to grow the front office. So along with that news, we saw swirling rumors today surrounding Connecticut's Steph White, who was reportedly in discussions with the Sky, the Fever, and the Sun for her coaching services. Maddy, she has familiarity with all three franchises as a coach in some capacity, whether assistant or head, but ultimately had the most success with Connecticut. Do any of these teams stand out to you as the favorite to retain or get for services?
Well, I think I would still say Connecticut is the favorite if I was making betting odds, but I think Indiana may be a close second. She's from Indiana originally. She went to Purdue. She's a former Fever player, won a championship as a member of Lynn Dunn's staff in 2012. So, I mean, the ties are very strong to Indiana. So I think especially if Connecticut decides to blow it up and Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner potentially leave this offseason, I think there's a good chance that Steph White could leave and that Indiana would be potentially her ideal option under that circumstance. With that being said, we did talk about this earlier, and I do wonder just with Steph White's coaching identity, which historically has sort of been more defensive minded, matching that up with a offensive powerhouse in Indiana, I'm not saying it couldn't work, but as again a Phoenix Suns fan who just watched offensive mastermind Frank Vogel or defensive mastermind Frank Vogel, I'm sorry, with our offensive powerhouse last season, it didn't really work out too well because he didn't really have any defensive pieces to work with, so to speak. And so he was kind of just like banging his head into a wall the whole year. And then all of our offensive guys were like, we don't really know what to do. And I just fear that that could be the same scenario for the Fever, is all I'm saying. So I feel like if that were the move, they would need to make some roster moves accordingly. Obviously, Caitlin Clark is like an offense under her own, so I think like that would be fine. But I'm just saying the fit has to be there as well, and I think that is an underrated aspect in these um, coaching searches and situations.
Yeah, I don't really know how to approach it. I think all three of them kind of have like the same amount of pros and cons. I think Chicago and Indiana obviously have the exciting rookies, but they kind of come with questionable cultures. Indiana to me is almost like Lakers esque in a way. Like it's a pressure cooker job that like you have to come in and you have to win. You have a very hostile fan base that's on top of you, and you have a very big star that has a lot to do and a lot to say with how things operate. So I don't know. I mean, Connecticut has, the more recent success. They have a roster full of free agents. They don't have a facility really in sight. So I don't know. You said in our DMs earlier today that the Sun could like maybe limp one more season into this new CBA, and like part of me thinks maybe Steph elects to ride it out as well. I don't know. Maybe they could just put piecemeal something together and make one more run at it. I don't know. We'll see. The Sun could stay together. Who knows? This whole team could stay together and at least get through the CBA. Um, I mean, between more potential moves, coaching moves that could lead to better opportunities, and you have expansion teams coming in, it could be in her best interest to just wait it out another year. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that I will be keeping a close eye on her because she's probably one of the best non-assistant candidates that'll be on the market. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. We had our first coaching hire come in the form of Golden State hiring Las Vegas Aces assistant coach Natalie Nikasi. First head coach in franchise history. Coach Nat spent 3 years with the Aces, won 2 titles on Becky Hammond's staff. She has a pretty strong reputation in California already, both as a coach in the Clippers organization and as a player at UCLA. Golden State, they kind of had their pick of the litter, and they ultimately wound up going with a high-profile assistant with championship experience. Maddie, do you like this move for the Valkyrie as they begin play next season?
I love this move. I love this move from Golden State. I was super happy, of course, to see them hire a woman and a woman of color. And knowing the roots that she has in California, I think it just made a ton of sense. And I think when you're a new franchise, it's okay and even makes sense to have a first time head coach as well. So this is a home run, in my opinion. Um, and I think she's going to be able to develop a great culture there just to start off. And I also love that I feel like Golden State already has like a direction almost. Like I already have a sense of what that organization wants to be and where they like are headed, and I appreciate that from them, like especially coming in as the first expansion franchise in however long. um I don't know, I really appreciate what they're doing and all the decisions they've made so far.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Coach Nat, so I'm sad to see her go from the Aces organization. But I will say that selfishly, I want Coach Tyler Marsh to take over the Aces, and that move keeps that dream alive. So everybody else, go about your business, mind your P's and Q's, and leave Ty alone. But no, I am really excited for Nat. I think her experience and the culture she builds is going to be fantastic. To your point about culture, I think she's going to be a coach players want to play for, and I think that's a huge advantage for a franchise that's A, going to have a new facility, B, that's going to have a beautiful arena. I think one of the biggest parts of free agency right now is becoming as attractive as possible off the court, and I think this move really polishes them off as a great destination. So Golden State, you're off to a great start. You have an expansion draft coming up very soon. I'm excited to see how that pans out. What I'm not excited about, and what I was not excited to see pan out, was the WNBA Finals and who ultimately was crowned champion. As much as I want to ignore it, Maddie might want to ignore it, but I know she's a little excited. We did crown a new WNBA champion on Sunday. The New York Liberty were the ultimate survivors of a pretty knockdown drag-out Game 5 at Barclays. So congrats to the Libs on their first title in franchise history. But in all seriousness, it was a hell of a series. It was great basketball. We said it was going to be great basketball, and it was. Maddie, you're a New York hater to your core. You were literally doing this before the pod started. I wish I would have recorded it because you said a lot of good things, but we've got to give credit where credit is due.
I don't have to do nothing. That chip is fraudulent, and I will
Here we
always
go.
say that.
Here we go.
No, but actually, I will begrudgingly give credit to the New York Liberty. Maybe this will serve as a good omen for my Phoenix Suns, the oldest NBA franchise to never have won, And they will be able to finally break the curse as well. Because for all the shit that I've talked about the Liberty, it's just because I really didn't want them to win, because it just reminds me about how much the Phoenix Suns have lost. But anyways, the pressure was all on them. You could feel the pressure at times. It was you could cut it with a knife. I mean, it was visceral. And end of the day, they still managed to pull it out. That was a gritty, nasty, physical series. I mean, every single person involved needs like major TLC on their body after that series, I guarantee you. Sabrina definitely had a concussion in Game 5 after coming off that screen on Fee. Let's talk about that for a second, by the way. Sidebar. New York Liberty. I don't care that you guys won the fucking championship. Call out screens for your teammates. As far as I'm concerned, y'all still never beat the allegations from Kelsey Plum, because at the end of the day, I don't give a shit that y'all won a ring together. I still don't know if you care about each other. Sabrina literally almost died on that screen. I mean, conked her head. Y'all are lucky that they didn't have the concussion doctor from the NFL, because they would have run out there and given her the iPad test. She would have failed it, and she would have been out until week 3. So that is all I have to say about that. Liberty in the off season, you need to work on calling out screens, because that was like the 5th time in the playoffs that we saw somebody just absolutely get crushed to death on a screen. And that's embarrassing. And I wasn't the only one saying that shit.
We also need to just another quick sidebar. We are just going wildly off script right now. Another quick sidebar. The fans were chanting "Ref, you suck." Alana Smith was quite literally WWE. Jonquel looked like the Undertaker, slamming Alana Smith to the ground. This girl's back was made of glass. She literally in this series was glass bones, paper skin, and it was Jonquel Jones of all the people to throw her to the floor, and we're chanting "Ref, you suck." The refs did suck. I will agree with you guys on that. However, that was a body slam. That was legal in wrestling. Legal in wrestling, not in basketball.
You're not going to be able to see it, but it says JJ body slam Alana.
With the sad face. And I know you wrote that too right when it happened. You were taking detailed notes.
I didn't want to forget.
That was not great. Listen, tensions are high. It's the finals. I get it. Everyone's excited. But let's
guys,
get that basketball IQ up a little bit. You've gone to back-to-back finals. We got to get that basketball IQ up. But what stood out to me, I think, for the Liberty was just the team effort, as a whole. There was a true team effort all the way up and down that roster, because you saw ebbs and flows from the trio of JJ, Sav, and Stewie. Jonquel showed up in major ways to carry the team when Stewie and Sabrina struggled to make baskets, especially in Game 5 of all the games. And Stewie played a great series defensively. It wasn't all there offensively at times. Sabrina shook off the demons, and when she hit that cold-blooded game winner, the demons might have come back a little bit in Game 5, but again, it was just an up and down the roster effort, and the thing that I thought would be their Achilles heel was the flaming arrow in the end. The bench. They got insane minutes from their bench in the series. Niara Sabali was playing stupidly good basketball just out of nowhere. Kayla Thornton was showing up. Sloot was pitching in great ways, like a veteran would at various moments. But they held the fort down. The bench, I feel really held the fort down in Game 5 to win the title, because when that bench gets out there, the lengths on paper are better than them. The depth is better for Minnesota, so you have to just fully give them the credit. Maddie, how impressed were you with the balance in the series compared to the rest of the season?
I was really impressed. And I think, first of all, I have to credit Sandy in Game 5 for going to Niara Sabali in that moment, in that situation, the way that she did, because that was a ballsy move. I mean, like Niara Sabli had barely played in the finals. Honestly, hadn't played super significant minutes, I don't think, since maybe the Atlanta series. And um the way that she just came in and immediately made an impact, and Sandy saw that and said, okay, I'm going to stick with that. And I mean, it paid dividends and it worked out. And I think not a lot of coaches are willing to make that decision in that moment. I mean, you saw, frankly, Cheryl refused to even try, attempt to play Maisha Hines Allen, who frankly had not performed well early in the series in the few minutes that she got. And not that I think necessarily she would have made a huge difference, or the outcome of the game would have been different, but I just want to commend Sandy for that. And then, yeah, I think I was impressed more than anything. Honestly, I was really impressed by the Liberty's defense and just like whoever was on the floor. Like, we know that starting lineup is known for their defense, and they have several lineups that they go to that are like great defensively, but it felt like it did not matter who was on the floor. Like, they were just, having their moments. Like you said, even Sloot was like holding her own for the most part. Kayla Thornton was coming out, just getting everywhere, being annoying and a pest, as she does. And they were able to hold the Lynx in the 3 games that the Liberty won. The Lynx averaged just 68 points per game. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive considering the team averaged over 80 points per game in the playoffs and the regular season. So,
I think that's kind of the thing about a game, a game 5 or a game 7 type of game, is that the storylines don't really matter. The way the rest of the season doesn't really matter. It's one game in its own vacuum, and anything can happen. And the Liberty really bucked, I think, a lot of the trends that they experienced throughout the season, and showed up and won. They were not going to be denied. So,
yeah.
Again, congrats to them. We'll see how this offseason goes. A lot of people are going to be hunting the Liberty now. So, good thing the Aces got the target off their back. Now it's on the Liberty. Now it's on the Liberty. Before we move on, we have got to talk about the 2 big controversies, because we cannot go one episode without flaming one Kathy Engelbert. And good Lord, do we have some flaming to do. All right. First off, let me pull up my list here. First off, the dress. Maddie, the goddamn dress. The commissioner of this league showed up to a championship clinching game in a New York skyline dress. The New York skyline printed all over it. Like, even a rising star in Angel Reese, who has a team that she plays for, could have fully been biased, showed up. Like, she had the couth to show up in like a split jersey top, with one side like New York and one side Minnesota. Like, is it safe now? Is this a safe space for us to lean into the conspiracies after this just truly elite performance from Kathy?
I am donning the tinfoil hat, and the fix is in. I mean, you just absolutely have to you have to know better than to wear the New York skyline dress to the finals. Is crazy. First of all, I look like this, so I am not but that dress was not that cute, also, in my opinion. That's neither here nor there, but New York skyline is insane. Like, objectively, especially when you consider the way that officiating has been all season, and just like the way that the general atmosphere is about like sports fixing right now. Like, I think it's just best to just stay away in general. I cannot imagine Adam Silver showing up to the NBA Finals wearing a green Celtics tie. Like, you just can't do that. I don't know. That's all I have to say. You just can't do that. So I don't know. I don't care what the logic was behind it. The way I see it, there's only two possibilities here, and neither of them are good. Either one, she doesn't have anyone in her life who will be honest with her and tell her, Kathy, first of all, that dress was $300 and you should throw it in the trash. Second of all, you can't wear that. It's not a good look. Or number two, someone does care about her and told her, Kathy, don't do that. And she said, F you, and did it anyways. Neither of those are good. In my opinion, both of those are fireable offenses. So that's strike 400.
I just know she walked into like a Nordstrom or an Express or something and saw that dress and was just like, yeah, like this is my rainy day dress for when they finally get there and pull it off. And I cannot believe she wore it. I cannot describe the look on my face when I saw her trotting around in that dress because A, you're right, it is a hideous dress, but B, just being so loud and like it's wrong. It's loud and wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. Like because we know if this game 5 was in Minneapolis, you're not wearing a Minneapolis skyline dress. That doesn't exist. You weren't going to wear anything that was like leaning towards Minnesota. But this is the same lady. Keep in mind, it's the same lady that has done nothing but have disgusted looks on her face the past 2 seasons as she presented the championship trophy to Vegas. Just disgusting looks. She has been dying for this moment ever since the Libs like got on this trajectory of like we're bringing in the free agents, we're building a super team. She has been ready for this moment. She bought that dress when that moment happened. As soon as they signed Stewie, she's like, I gotta find a New York Skyline dress. I gotta find one now. So I will say I take great satisfaction in knowing that she didn't get to see the championship won against us. I know she wanted it in her heart. She was definitely bitter that it was Minnesota and it was not Vegas. I also noticed, I don't know if you saw this, but Sydney Colson managed to find the same dress and she was teasing on Twitter that she might wear it as her season opening tunnel fit next year. So we can prepare for laps. We may have to prepare for fines following said laps. So Sydney Colson is always up to something. I don't know how she did it. She was clearly just like at a mall somewhere and found it. I wouldn't be shocked if she went out of her way to just specifically go look for it. We can't move on from this series without also discussing the absolutely putrid officiating. We kind of danced around the topic, but it was horrific all series long. It benefited both teams to like a certain point, I guess, but Maddie, there were 2 critical moments that happened in the final moments of regulation in Game 5. We had Stewie with an 18-step travel. Like, I've never seen so many steps taken at one time with a basketball in a basketball game while holding it. And it was combined with a very, very weak foul on that final play with Alana Smith getting the hand on Stewie. We kind of became the laughing stock of basketball. Like the highlight went viral of that sequence, and we became the laughing stock of basketball on social media. Like, what are your thoughts on how all this unfolded?
What are my thoughts on us being the laughing stock of basketball? Fuck that. That's my thoughts. The first thing I want to do is reiterate that the refs were in fact garbage in the entire fucking series, and they all need to be jailed for their crimes, especially okay, not actually jailed, but metaphorically jailed.
No, you're right.
For their crimes because, and also I would like to point out that Guido ref is was there at game 5. He was not like on the court, but was sitting courtside in like his ref zip up 3/4 hoodie, and was sitting there. And he was the one that they went to in those moments. And they said, Guido, what should we do? And he is the one who told them what to do. So it's on him. It all goes back to him. Isaac Burnett, I'm watching you. And I think the one thing that Cheryl did say right in her post-game presser was there needs to be a neutral third party, like the MNBA has Secaucus in the final 2 minutes or whatever, and in the playoffs where they go to, and it's like video review where they have all the angles in their big room, and they call them and they say, what's the call? And then they tell them, like, duh, it's like fucking VAR or like whatever. I feel like that's what it needs to be, because the reality is refs are human too. And as much as we want them to be like robots or whatever, the emotions of the game exist and the flow of the game affects them too. And so it's only natural that like there's a lot going on. So I just feel like it's best for there to be a neutral situation. With that being said, I understand both sides in the situation. The reality is I went and I looked back at everything. The Lynx did not score a single basket in overtime. Not a single one. They scored 2 points, and it was Kayla McBride hit 2 free throws. Shout out to her. I honestly think she wanted that. I mean, I'm not saying anybody on Minnesota didn't want the win, obviously. But like K-Max said in her mid-game interview with Holly Rowe, she's like, I want this win so bad. You could tell how much Kayla McBride wanted that win. At the end of the day, I think Minnesota just didn't have the legs. Like they were dead out there. They were gassed. We have to remember they played a drag out 5-game series against Connecticut as well. And like Connecticut is not a fun team to go against. That was an extremely physical series where they got beat up. And so while I sympathize with Lynx fans, and I think that the officiating was horrible. It was a huge issue. I hate to see a game decided like that. I hate that we even have to talk about this. I understand why Lynx fans feel robbed, and I don't blame them for that. But you got to score points to win games. 0 baskets and 6 turnovers in 5 minutes ain't going to do much. And again, I understand Lynx fans are upset. They're like, well, we wouldn't have been in OT in the first place if we had whatever. And I get that. But again, them's the ways it goes. You got to make a shot, like literally 6 turnovers, and they couldn't make a single fucking shot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel like I'm in the Paige Becker's camp of like, you can't blame the officials for losing a game, like, you know, how they crashed out against Iowa in the tournament. It was just like we shouldn't have put ourselves in that position, is basically the point of her statement. And you're right. I think Minnesota had plenty of opportunities to run away with that game. I think they just didn't give their normal, well-balanced performance that they usually give. They ran out of gas. New York's team defense ultimately won them that game. I think for the officiating, like, to me, it was just kind of the ultimate culmination of like how the officials have behaved all season. Like, we were talking back in June, you and I were having roundtables on this podcast about like the state of WNBA officiating. Like, these crews went most of the season unchecked. They made a lot of mistakes all year long. I cannot say I'm surprised that the final seconds of a championship clinching game were marred by mistakes. And the worst part to me is that it wasn't a foul. Like, it just wasn't even a foul. Like, no matter what angle you looked at it, like, you could piece it together. Like, one angle, the angle from behind, like, it looked like, okay, well, maybe she caught her arm. When you see the angle from the opposite side of the bench, you can see that it's like straight on the ball. And there's another angle that shows it on the ball, and it's just like, you get screwed on that right after Stewie was doing the Cupid shuffle just to get in position to shoot the ball. Like, I don't know, just between that and like I see multiple freeze frames this week of Nafisa Collier like mid layup in game 5 getting fully whacked in the face like Asia Wilson, and she didn't shoot any free throws by the way in game 5, so it's an embarrassing look. This is not on the Liberty, like it's they are just playing basketball. They're playing defense, they're doing what they're supposed to do. It's on the officials to not let these games get out of hand. It's on the officials to not take control, but to keep it under control. That's your goal. That's your job. So I really feel like officiating needs to be like a cornerstone item that is focused on for improvement. I don't have a lot of faith in league leadership to get that done, considering that this was apparently the best of the best. This was the best crew that we could get for the finals. So
I saw
that's it.
my friend Erica say something on her podcast, the Mercury podcast, earlier today, that I thought was really poignant about the officiating, which was the problem is not just the officiating from game to game. The problem is not just the officiating from quarter to quarter. The problem is the officiating from minute to minute. Like it literally felt like throughout the series and throughout the playoffs at times, like within a quarter, they would let contact go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And then the last like 2 minutes, all of a sudden now everything's a foul. And it's like that is the kind of shit that then it becomes a problem. And it's so frustrating for everybody. It's frustrating for the players, it's frustrating for the fans. It's just like, can we just have consistency within a damn quarter? Like, please. So, anyways, shout out to Erica for that.
No, yeah, that's a great point. That's something you and I were talking about back in, I don't remember when it was, if it was June or July, when the Lynx came to Vegas, and I was just like, you can see how the flow of the game is wearing Vegas down because they just weren't getting the bounces, and then like all of a sudden the officiating just like went off the rails. Like they were just blowing every single whistle and every single like foul was going against them, and they weren't getting any calls, and like it just there's no there was no consistency to the way that the game was being called, and that can be said about a lot of games all season long, like to her point. So it's ugly, it's gross, let's not do that again. 0 out of 10, I do not recommend. Let's not do that again next year because games like that need to be won by the players, needs to be decided by the players, not by the officials. So that's it. There you have it. That is our finals recap. Coaching drama's heating up. We got to dive into a little bit of that. The rumors swirling around Twitter are that we're not done with coaching drama, so we'll keep our ear to the ground as that unfolds. The Liberty fans are celebrating and dancing all over us on Twitter as they should. They took a lot of shit last year, so I get it. They've got their shit to talk. We're just over a month from the expansion draft. Women's college basketball is just a few weeks away. So season may be over for the WNBA, but the excitement I feel like is kind of just getting underway. So Maddie, before we go, I have 2 questions for you. First off, very controversial one. You had a birthday dinner scheduled exactly for tip of Game 5 of the WNBA Finals, a championship clinching Game 5. Can you please give me a play-by-play breakdown on how you managed and guided yourself through such treacherous territory?
Well, first off, I just want to say that I am unfortunately a member of a minority group in my family, which is sports lover. And there's a lot of people in there who claim that they are interested in sports, but my girlfriend's dad DVRs the games and then watches them days later. And I am not in my 60s, so I
It's also not a sitcom, like it's a live
can't
sport.
do that. So anyways, that's just kind of the context for what I'm working with. So there's not a lot of respect for the importance of these situations. And so what had happened was my birthday was game 1 of the finals, right? So that was when my actual birthday was, but it was like midweek. And then that weekend, my girlfriend's parents were out of town, but they were going to be back on Sunday. But then Sunday night was game 2. So I was like, sorry, tough shit. I'm busy. I got to watch WNBA finals game 2. And then the next weekend, my girlfriend had planned for it, but I told her game 5 could be then. The schedule hadn't come out yet. Game 5 was TBD. So we didn't know what time it was going to be. I told her it's a 50-50 chance that I may be available, I may not. So tell them, we can make tentative plans. She heard, in her mind, sounds good, we're having birthday dinner at that time.
Which a 50-50 chance is like 0% chance with Maddie. There will be a sporting event, so just don't schedule it.
Yeah, well, again, no respect. And Chiefs Niners was the same time also, mind you. Well, it was not the same time. It was earlier. But then it comes around. Game 4 happens. I'm refreshing. Time comes out. I look at my girlfriend. We're the Jewel Lloyd, Asia Wilson meme. Because she now has to text the whole family. And she is like dreading rescheduling this because in her mind, we're about to go out of town and then it's her brother-in-law's birthday. So she's like, okay, so now we're going to have to do another thing. And I'm like, well, I'll do a joint birthday with him. I don't give a shit. This birthday dinner is not even really for me at the end of the day. Like, it's for me. It's a free meal for me. So like, I'm grateful and I love you guys. But like, I would, if it was me, if it was my way, I would get takeout and stay in and watch, that's like my vibe. So that's pretty much how it happened. And then I said, babe, I cannot, like, I literally cannot miss this game. Because like normally the rule is that like I will, but like if it has to be my team is involved. So that's kind of where I got into a pickle because my team was on fault. But I'm like, girl, it's literally game 5 of the WNBA finals. Like, I don't know how to tell you this. Like, this is history. I cannot miss this. And imagine if I had been at the old spaghetti factory instead of watching that overtime game. Can you fucking imagine? So, like, thank God that I fucking moved it.
Please tell me that's where you actually were going.
Yeah, it is. Of course.
Oh my god, that's unbelievable. I thought you just pulled that out of the hat.
No, it's where we go every year.
Still unbelievably funny. Oh my god. Yeah, I feel like if it's weekend and it's like playoff, this is a very precarious time to schedule sport.
Nobody
things
should
because there's
ever
so many
be
sporting
planning
events
on Sundays. I thought this is a Christian family we're talking about. I'm like, what happened to the Lord's Day? What happened to taking the Sabbath seriously? Like, I thought you guys had respect. Nope.
Oh my god.
We're going to Old Spaghetti Factory. Okay. I wanted to watch Chiefs Niners, but whatever.
Holy shit. Come for the podcast, stay for the stand-up routine at the end. Oh my god. Well, I'm glad you got to watch it because yeah, you would have been completely dissociated, staring at your phone, completely locked in. You wouldn't have said a word.
She had the audacity to look me dead in the face and say, well, can you just watch it on your phone?
No!
And I was like, no. And I was also like that. I was like, well, I was trying to frame it. I'm like, no, that would be so rude. But I'm also like, no. Like, what? Again, they don't understand the gravity of the situation. They don't understand what this means. I don't know how to explain it to them. I'm like, you guys, like
you have a
they
podcast,
think I can. They literally think it's like a movie, like a new movie coming out. And I'm like, guys,
nope. Can't DVR this.
I cannot just see it later. Anyways.
Oh. Well, the second thing I have written down, and I was gonna say this one of two ways. It was either gonna be derogatory or complimentary, but the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns. Your thoughts?
Dude, okay. My first thought is Kevin Durant. I love you. Every time I see him play for the Phoenix Suns, it's literally a childhood dream for me. My Sonics legend. I was so devastated when the Sonics left and then moved here, and then I became a Suns fan, and then Kevin Durant came, and it was like the best day of my life. And I'm not getting my hopes up about this team because we just got swept by Minnesota, and I have not forgotten. Both my teams got swept by Minnesota in a 6-month span. It was sick and not in a good way. However, I did enjoy the game tonight. OT win, 1 of 82. I'm feeling mildly optimistic.
That's a good place to be. Mildly optimistic.
Could be
is a good
worse.
place to be.
Could be worse.
Could be a lot worse. So
I will say though, MNBA is so boring. Like literally watching it
It's
after
slow.
watching the WNBA
It's slow.
finals. It's also just like, okay, I'm so sorry, but like just chucking threes and the flopping. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot all the flopping. It's so much selling for contact. Like people think that some of the W players, like there's a few players in the WNBA who maybe try to really sell and get fouls. It's like everybody in the NBA is foul baiting all the time. And I get it because like in the NBA, you almost have to. Like you almost don't have a choice. But that's why it sucks. And that's also why the games are 3 hours long. It's like a fucking baseball game out there sometimes. Damn.
I'm just so used to the speed of the WNBA because I don't really watch the NBA. Like I just don't. I watched it when I was in high school, like forever ago, but I just haven't watched it forever. I'm so used to the speed of the W and how everyone is just so fast. So like to watch Kevin Durant and James Harden just like it was almost like watching like your two uncles like outside at Thanksgiving, like just hooping on each other one on one. Like he was moving so slow at times, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get back into it. Once Vegas gets a team, I'll probably dive in and become a sicko. So
But your
wishing
Caps are doing
you
good, so right?
yeah, I'm dialed in on hockey because the Caps are 5-1. We're beating everyone over the head with a hammer. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I'm sure it's going to be really bad at some point, but right now it's fun. So we'll see. I wish your Suns the best. I wish my Caps the best. I do tend to live and die on your MNBA tweets because they're very funny and they're very entertaining. I don't like to see you sad, but sometimes your best tweets come when you are upset about
Me too.
the Suns game. So at the very least, we can hope for entertainment, if not success. We will go ahead and wrap it up on that note. Definitely stick around with us throughout the off season. We're going to be still releasing weekly as kind of the news drops and moves are made and different milestones are hit in terms of free agency and the expansion draft and et cetera, et cetera. We'll definitely have some special guests joining us along the way, so look out for that as well. As always, we will see y'all on Twitter. We are at Flagrant Femme. Smash that follow if you haven't already. We will see you next week. And remember, mess with the femmes, catch a flagrant. See ya.